Alrighty, hello. We should be live on YouTube and all the associated. Uh, Probably shouldn't have went live on X, to be honest with you. That was kind of silly. Let me actually see if I can turn that off. I don't know if that's gonna work. Hopefully, I didn't break it. Um, I'm gonna try to not go live on X. Hopefully, that turns off. If you guys are here already, let me know in the chat and everything like that on YouTube and all the other things. What I'm doing here is you're not going to see me today. You're going to hear me, Kevin Geary, and Mark Westguard on an X space. And if you want to go, you can click the link in the description of this or just go follow us or check us out. Like either one of our profiles, we have it on there. And you'll see it on X if you're already following us. I'm going to start the space now. So you're going to hear a bunch of other people. If you want to get in and join, definitely go ahead and do that. So let's get into it here. 11. I think we're good to go. Hang on a second. Let's see here. It's always difficult simulcasting and doing all this stuff at the same time. So let's see if we can do it. Testing. Are we in the space? Let's see. I think we're live in here. I think the space is popping here. Let's see if we get anybody to join. What's up, Nomad? Chat on YouTube. Oh, okay. There we go. Cool. I can't see people. Let me see here. I can't see a list of people, which is strange to me. When I saw Kevin pop in and request, I might have to move to a different thing here. I'm not hearing Kevin, which is concerning to me on my...
Test.
I hear you now. I hear you now, sir.
All right.
See Mark here. I don't see a big list like I normally do, but
I'm in the speakers pool instead of the co-host pool, by the way. I don't know if that matters.
yeah. Of course, Elon's UI here is just being weird as usual. Let's see if we can. Let's see here.
It's been a long holiday break, people. Just hang tight.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so that's helpful. That's good. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not giving me literally anyone, like in my things. I might be able to switch to my phone. I can see.
Yeah, try it on your phone. I see listeners. I see the listeners in the pool. I see the speakers pool.
I can't even, like, if I go to like invite you as a co-host, it won't even let me. I'll try doing your thing real quick. I don't know if that worked or not, but I mean, if you could.
Hello.
Mark, what's up?
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
We're off to a great start, Mark.
Yep. This is why. Well, we get two Marks here, so that was confusing. But this is why I normally let Kevin host these. He's got. I think he's got more followers, so he's better. He's in better ties with Elon, and Elon just, treats his profile better. So that's kind of how it is.
All right. Well, let's just get started, and we'll figure out. Hopefully, you can elevate people into the speaker pool, right? If you need to.
Literally cannot see anyone, so we might want to.
You did, Mark, or Mark got into the speaker pool somehow.
Yeah, well, yeah, it does for some reason show me that they're requested. Like if somebody does request, I can see that.
Okay.
But other than that, actually,
I can monitor who's actually here and available. So as long as when they request, you can elevate them.
Okay. See how it goes.
All right, let's do it. Okay, guys, this is WP Townhall is back. Okay, we're talking about the anatomy of a great forms plugin today. We have a special guest, Mark Westguard, who I will introduce in just a second. If you are not familiar with WP Townhall, the format is first of all, I'm still recovering from the flu, so That's why I sound the way that I do. You'll just have to put up with it for today. But the format of WP Town Hall is it's very unique in that it's I believe the only WP podcast where the listeners get to participate, and the way that you participate is on X Spaces. So if you are, I think Mark, are you simulcasting this onto YouTube? I don't think I am, but I'll do that next time. Okay.
Currently,
So
yeah.
currently going forwards, these will be simulcast on YouTube as well. So you can listen there. But if you want to participate, follow Mark Zemansky or myself on X. You can go to wptownhall.show for all the instructions on how to do all this stuff. But join the X space and you can participate live. You get to ask the guest questions. You get to bring up topics. So we will have a conversation for the first 30 minutes or so, and then we kind of open it up. If you are listening right now on X Spaces and you want to participate, you want to be a speaker, you want to ask Mark questions, you want to chime in on the conversation, raise your hand or request to speak. There's a button down below, request to speak. We will put you in the speaker pool. And then when it comes time for you to participate, you are free to participate. That's how WP Town Hall works. So with that said, if you don't know Mark, and I'm talking about Mark Westguard, Mark is the creator of WS Form, probably one of the most respected plugins from a quality and stability, and certainly a customer service perspective. People always rave about the support they get with WS Form from Mark specifically. And he's a consistent face and sponsor at WordCamps. He also happens to be a great chef, though I don't think he talks about that side of things very much. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive straight in. Give us a little bit of, I don't know if you've given the backstory of WS Form. I mean, how did it come to be? Were you not completely inspired by Contact Form 7? Where did the idea of WS Form come from?
Basically that. I've been in the web game for, I want to say 28 years now. Shameful to say that, huh? The hair is going grey. And we've been using WordPress for about, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years at that point. And we were frustrated with the form plugins out there. Mainly styling was a big problem with the form plugins, but also functionality. We were finding we had to write a lot of custom stuff. We had to buy additional add-ons to get it to do things that we wanted it to do, and had a moment of madness and decided, let's build our own form plugin for WordPress. And what we thought was going to be a 6-month process has ended up being 6-7 years now, and we still haven't finished it. So we're still at it.
They're quite a little bit more complicated than they seem at first glance.
Yeah, that's true. And you know that as well. With the work that you do with ACSS, the amount of work that's involved with forms, there's a lot in the spec that you have to go through and get right. And then a lot of stuff around that, such as accessibility and things like that, you've got to take into account. So for me, it's an exciting project because, you know, I'm a developer at heart. I'm not a marketer. I love crunching the code and making things work. So it keeps me busy all the time. And our customers are always coming back with new things that they want, new ideas, new great ideas. And we try to implement as many of those as we can. So that's the backstory. It was basically an agency wanting to improve WordPress form plugins. And that's why we started building the product.
What kind of agency clients were you working with? I know you probably have tons of customers. I don't even know if they know that you were doing agency stuff.
Yeah, we started back in '96 in the .com boom. So we had people like Sony, KPMG, SAP, Filofax. I mean, all the big names back then. We got hit by the .com bubble like a lot of the big agencies did back then. We were the UK's second fastest growing agency at one point. So it was good times for a while there. And then we got a lot leaner because we had to lay a lot of people off. We had people like, you know, British Telecom and also the UK government that just pulled contracts. You know, it carried on after that. We kept on working with some big names. But after 28 years of doing the web development, it started getting a bit thin for me. So I'm enjoying doing the product side back again. I used to run a wedding company that did wedding websites and wedding planning software. and that was licensed software. And I enjoy doing that and wanted to get back into it. So that's why I've fallen back into the plugin. I still do a little bit of agency work. I work with people like Aveda Hair Care and a few other companies, but it's a lot thinner on the ground now. My main focus is on WS Form now.
And you said 6 to 7 years now?
Yeah, I think so. I've lost track. We
Take
launched.
Take us back to that, like, because I know the forums. Everybody says the forums market is very, very saturated. Was it saturated 6 to 7 years ago?
It was, yeah. There was the usual big names that are out there. I think we launched in 2018 in November. We did a small WordCamp in Dallas, Fort Worth, just to kind of put a feeler out there. And I always remember it was the end of the day, and a lady came up to us and said, "Hey, I need to show my boss this. It's really cool." And she ran off, got her boss, and she came back and said, "Look, I'm a diehard X plugin fan. You've got 10 minutes to convince me to use your product." And I showed her it, and she's like, "I really want to help you push this product," which really motivated me. It's one of those points in your career where you're like, "Yep, I think we're on the right track." So that's when we launched it. It was November 2018, and then we've done sponsored at least one WordCamp every year since that. We try to do the 3 major flagships every year if we can. So that's when we started. It was November 2018.
So that's interesting that she said you've got 10 minutes to convince me. This is one of the biggest questions I get. Like, why is WS Form better than Gravity? Why is WS Form better than Fluent or any of the others? And I have a hard time answering it. It's not because there's plenty of reasons. It's actually, that's why it's so hard to answer the questions. Like, how long do you have? And then it's always stuff that has to be demonstrated. It's not stuff you can't just list it out, right? So do you find it challenging to answer this question also?
Definitely. And everybody has a different requirement for a form plugin, right? So some people are really focused on accessibility. Some people are really focused on, some people just want a simple contact us form. Some people want to build a form that can do custom window configurations and integrate it in with WooCommerce. So it's difficult to give one right answer. And when I'm doing a WordCamp, I'll spend 2 days just doing demos to people. I love doing that. We don't get any ROI from it, but it's just nice to kind of talk to people and get their feedback. And the demo I do takes about 30 minutes. There's no simple way of going through the product in 10 minutes to show them everything that it does. So it's a really tough plug-in to market and sell. And that's where my relationships with people such as yourselves, really helps out, because you'll have use cases where you can show people where WS Form's a really good fit. But it's not a thing where I can flash up something in 30 seconds and everyone goes, right, well, that's better than all the others. So
exactly.
It's definitely a tough sell. It's also a really boring product to market as well. There's nothing colorful about it. The recent styler that we did is got a bit of color to it, something that people can actually see. So that's a little bit easier to market. But some of the other stuff, like file uploads, spam protection, stuff like that, it's just not sexy, right?
Yeah. It's solution based 100%. When people see it solving a problem that they had, then like a light bulb goes off, but it's still for just that one part of it, and then they still have to be introduced. I find it's just a very long runway. It's and same for ACSS. It's they hear about it and then it kind of rattles around in their brain and doesn't go anywhere, and then they see it like an implementation over here in a video, and then somebody else posts a video of a different and it just kind of adds up, and then they come to a conclusion at some point down the line. It's never just like, oh, let me have a conversation with you and now you're convinced of WS Form. They have to come to that conclusion after 6, 7, 8 different like touch points.
Yeah, and I agree. It's like the 7 touch stuff with marketing. It takes a few touches for people to realize what it can do. And WS Form is one of those products where it gets very, very deep. And one of the things that we've done is taken that HTML5 spec and just ripped it apart. So pretty much everything that you need to do with a form is in there. You got to click down to get to it, and that's where I think some form plugins fall short. Is they do the basics, but if there's a specific thing that you want it to do, like a certain attribute that you want to take advantage of, a lot of the time that's not there. And that's what we've tried to do, is to try to make that all available. But on the flip side, that makes the product a lot more complex. If you look at the settings for just like a text field compared to other form plugins, you'll see how much more in depth WS Form goes. And we've done that because our audience is predominantly agencies, developers, people that really want that power to be there. So it's not, the other thing is I'm not going out there and trying to convert Gravity Forms customers or Fluent Forms customers. There's so many new people coming into the space. I'm not about trying to convert people, but when they do look for a form plugin, trying to be front and center, that's the biggest challenge with having a plugin, is just getting the word out there and getting people aware of your product.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job with the documentation as well. Probably sets an example of how documentation should be done, honestly. So for the immense power it has and all the settings and all the stuff you can do with it, people often will say like, oh, well, I'll never figure that out, or I'll never be able to do it. But if you just take one visit to the document, it's very, very detailed and walks you through it.
And there's usually a checkbox for what you need as well. So, just a simple example is like adding a select to a select field. You don't need to write all the code to do that. You just go into the admin, hit a checkbox. You can choose to do Ajax on it. You can do cascading fields. You can do all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of code there that is built into the product to really speed up your development process. You don't have to do all the hard work yourself. It's just a case of checking the box.
Explain that in more detail to a beginner, adding a select to a select field. They may not even know what that means.
Yeah, so a select field is like, some people will call that a drop down. So you click on it and you'll choose an option from it. Sometimes you may want the user to be able to type in a search to find an item in that list. So let's say you've got a country list and you want someone to be able to search for United States. They can type in United. Using select to, that's basically a JavaScript library that you can apply to that select element, and that will add a search box to that select dropdown. Select to does a lot of other stuff, but that's a very basic example of it. So normally what you'd have to do is to include some JavaScript and write some JavaScript to apply it to a select field. But in WS Form, you just check a box and it does it all for you. So there's a lot of that going on in the product to really make development quick for you. You don't have to remember how to do all that code. You can just check a box and off you go.
And that's not, so there's another side of it too, which is populating all of that data into the select field. WS Form does a lot of that work for you as well, right?
Yeah, so we have a thing called data grids, and data grids can be applied to a select field, checkbox, or a radio. And you can use those data grids to populate the radio checkboxes or options shown in the select field. And you can pull data in from a CSV file. You can manually type it in, but you can also do cool stuff like pull data in from a Google Sheet, for example, or you can write your own PHP to populate that. In addition to that, we have really, really deep integration with all the custom field plugins as well. So ACF, ACPT, Toolset, Jet Engine, Metabox, etc. You can pull in data from custom fields into the fields on your form, and then you can use that data to create a post or update a post or even delete a post. So that's one of our real strong points. It's one of the reasons a lot of people buy the product is the integration we have with custom field plugins.
Yeah, just to give people an example of one thing I commonly do with WS Form is I'll have all of my services or the client services or products or whatever. For Digital Gravy, for example, we might have 4 products, 5 products, and those are always created as a CPT. So custom post type, I have every product as a post. And in our support form, there's a drop down for, hey, which product do you need support for? We don't have to manually keep that drop down up to date. WS Form just dynamically pulls in the product posts, and all of our products are populated there. And then we could do full conditional logic on, okay, they've chosen this product, we're going to answer, or we're going to ask them these questions, or take them to this step of the form, or whatever it may be. All of that stuff is handled. It's just clicking buttons. It's like there's not even anything. It's doing so much heavy lifting, and there's nothing technical about it. It's literally just read the documentation, click some boxes.
Yeah, do a bit of mapping, and off you go. And that's just one of the features, right? So this is what we were saying earlier on. There's just so many different features like that that are basically aimed to speed up your development. As a developer of websites, by using WS Form, you can really speed up your development process.
Is there any other advanced stuff like that off the top of your head that you really hone in on and that people don't normally talk about?
I think the conditional logic is something that's really powerful in WS Form. A lot of form plugins will have the ability to say show a field if the value of another field equals something. And that's as far as they go. But the conditional logic in WS Form is probably one of the things that makes it very, very powerful. So, for example, you can do stuff at a form level. You can check if a form is validated or not. You can check if a user's logged in. You can check if the value of a select field equals something. You can check for mouse events. You can check for all sorts of different things as an if statement. And then on the then and the else on the condition, you can do things like, the normal stuff like showing a field, but you can also show a section of fields. You can show and hide tabs. You can run JavaScript. You can even do stuff like if a mouse rolls over this text field, then fire a webhook to this remote API endpoint and then populate return to a field on the form. So it's quite powerful on the conditional logic side too.
Yeah, this is the side of it where people ask me, the different. These things go through my mind, but then I'm like, man, this is how do you communicate this to some? When you show them, that's one thing. But again, you don't have hours to just sit there and show them all of these use cases and examples. I get frustrated to the point I'm like, dude, you just have to take my word for it. Like, at what point are you just not going to take my word for it? And then I'll see them a year later, and they'll be like, this WS Form thing, I just should have listened the very beginning. Like, exactly.
Yeah, and then you've got all the usual stuff like your spam protection. We've got an awful lot of different spam stuff in there. We have a light version of WS Form as well, and that includes all of our spam protection stuff too. And then we've got the new styler that we just did. So the previous styling, we were using the customize tool in WordPress, basically because that's what we were told to use back in the day when we started it. And that's now been completely modernized. It's using CSS files. I think there's 400 of different things that you can style in there. So that makes styling forms a lot easier. And obviously we're integrated in with ACSS as well. So if you're using ACSS, you can control the look and feel of the form from within ACSS too.
You mentioned the free version of WS Form in the repo. Are you still, bullish on doing that? Has it helped a lot?
I still see it as a lead source. Yeah. It's always been a challenge to get a high install count on the light edition. And one of the big reasons is that we don't require the light edition to be installed to install the pro edition. So a lot of plugins will piggyback. And they do that so that their free edition in the plugin repo still gets that install. And I'm a big believer in having as few plugins as possible.
Yes.
So that piggybacking is not favorable in my eyes. So we lose a light install. So you'll notice our free install count is not that high. But that's because a lot of people just upgrade and then they don't have the light edition anymore. But like you were saying earlier about the competitive space. So when we came on board, some of these other form plugins still have millions of installs. So getting a ranking in the plugin directory was always a challenge. But we've done pretty good. I think if you type search for form, I think we've come up like number 10 still. And the people around us have a pretty high install count. So, but yeah, it's something that we still push. It doesn't get as updated as often as the Pro Edition, because the Pro Edition is where most of the functionality is. But we're still maintaining it.
I appreciate the not piggybacking thing, because it's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's like I buy the pro version, I spend good money on the pro version. I go to install it, and it's like, you can't have this version unless you have the other version as well. Like come on.
Yeah, your plugin list is twice as long as it should be.
Yeah. Where do you see forms like heading in the next? I know you just did a big refactoring. Like, where do you see this stuff heading in the next couple of years?
Just keeping up with things, really. I mean, there's a lot going on in the accessibility space. So working with people in the accessibility space to keep on top of that. That's a forever evolving space. Looking at new integrations as well. As new products come out, we release new add-ons. We're integrated in, I think, with about 95 third parties now. As well as things like Zapier and Make, so you can integrate in with another 10,000 third parties if you need to. So yeah, just really continually developing the product and adding new features, and really we're steered by our customers. So we have a feature request page, and we listen to people in our WordPress group on Facebook and see what people are interested in adding to the product, and go from there, really.
Love it. Mark, I'm gonna let you jump in a little bit as well. And also, if anybody is listening on X in the space and you want to come in and ask Mark questions, it could be technical questions as well. When we had Adam on from the Shure team, a lot of people had different implementation questions. They actually had a client and a problem that they were facing and wondering, hey, is this the solution for me? If you want to present something like that to Mark and have him walk you through it, what the steps would be for setting up that with a form, then hit the button to request to speak. Come on in. Of course, it's completely open. You can talk about anything. You can ask anything, but you have to be in the speaker pool. So hit the button down below to request to speak. Mark, I'll turn it over to you a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, guys, definitely jump in here if you would like to chat with Mark. A lot of good context there so far, Mark. I think the one thing that I'm kind of interested in is, so you've been at it for a while now. You're building a great product. A lot of us use it, and there's a lot of, we've talked about, some other kind of like form solutions in the backstory. But like, what would you say at this point, if you kind of, and maybe think about this, maybe you thought about this like 2 weeks ago, like kind of at the end of the year, what would you say the long-term goal for WS Form is? And like, kind of, do you have any benchmarks that you're trying to hit, or just like in general? Obviously you're always working on things, but do you ever look ahead like long-term as a product owner and think kind of like, futuristically, like where you're headed?
Yeah, I mean, I have plans and financial plans and stuff like that, and where we want to be as a company. We've done really well. I mean, since we started, growth has been good. We've had month-on-month growth, so I want to obviously continue to do that. Find new avenues to shout about the product within. That's always a challenge. The WordPress community, as big as it is still quite small. It's just the apex of users within the WordPress space. So trying to find other avenues to market the product is always a challenge. Marketing in general is a challenge for me because I'm a developer. So for me, it's all about relationships and building new relationships. That's something that I do constantly. It's just trying to meet new people, learn about what they do. Even things like we have a new payment integration coming, and that was just as a result of meeting somebody at a WordCamp. It wasn't necessarily me trying to push WS Form. We're just having a chat over a beer and just saying, we've got a new payment integration. We'd love you to be the first people to integrate with it, and we're going to be launching that in the next few weeks. So that's another exciting thing. And these types of things are just, they all bring more brand awareness. So that's I think for this year it's going to be a lot of obviously continual development of the product, but also just continually trying to make noise, basically, which is what all of us plugin developers try and do.
Yep. Do you see yourself kind of like, well, let me ask this question first, just because I'm curious on the technical implementation. Everything that you do, obviously, on WS Form, like with integrations and everything like that, that's totally like on your side. I think a lot of times, because I see this a lot, and I want to kind of tap in for some of the people that might not be already WS Form customers, kind of like what the community is like, because there's a great community on Facebook and everything like that, and obviously there's feature requests and everything you would expect. But anytime somebody has a feature idea, because I've seen this in other SaaS products, sometimes if you're trying to connect two things, you don't necessarily know where to go. So you were talking about a little bit earlier, you have like a lot of direct third-party integrations, but then there's also supplemental ones. How does that, I don't know if there's more to say there specifically, but how does that normally work? Or have you have other examples of when you've literally created different things? Like how do you kind of go about that process of deciding what kind of comes in?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that we do differently from other form plugins is we're not about just trying to push data to a third-party integration. We really like to take advantage of their API as much as we can. So, for example, let's just say you're integrating with MailChimp, for example. With WS Form, what you can do is you connect to MailChimp, but then you can actually choose your MailChimp list, and WS Form will build a form for you. That's the same with like our ACF integration. So if you're with ACF, you can choose your custom post type, and WS Form will build a form for you that's fully bi-directional and set up and mapped and ready to go. It's literally one click to get it working. And we've tried to do that with all of our integrations. So we do a little bit more work with these integrations than I would see other form plugins doing. As a result of that, it's quite a bit more for us to maintain. So the integrations that we choose usually are going to be, fairly well known. We do get some requests for integrations with some old legacy stuff. I literally get emails. I think I had one this morning saying, "Hey, can you integrate in with this?" And I'm like, I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend a week integrating with that because it'll only be for yourself. But I give them alternative ways of integrating with that, such as with our webhook, and there are other ways of doing that. So the stuff that we integrate with is usually the kind of low-hanging fruit, the bigger companies that are out there that have a larger audience, because we're going to be able to add that to our agency package and sell that as a value add. Our agency edition includes all of the integrations that we have. So as we build more integrations, that agency package becomes more valuable to you. So yeah, it's just an ongoing process, really. As new products come out, we try and tie in with them. If we get a lot of votes on a new integration, then we'll go ahead and create an integration for it.
Gotcha. Love that. We have Michelle in the speaker pool. Michelle, you want to pop in?
Hey, so hello everybody.
Hey, Michelle.
Full disclosure, I have seen a lot of this product in development over the last year with Mark. So I'm asking a question I kind of really answer to, but I think everybody else needs to hear too. And I joined late, so if you've already discussed it, I do apologize. But I know that Mark has paid special attention as well in developing the whole product, and then especially what he's been doing lately on accessibility. So Mark, can you talk a little bit about how you've built accessibility into this?
Yeah, so accessibility comes in several layers, really. You've got things like ARIA tags, which are tags that tell things like screen readers where the label for a particular field is, all manner of different things. But there's also a whole kind of JavaScript level to it as well. So making sure that particular ARIA tags appear on forms at the right point. So you don't necessarily want ARIA tags all over the place saying fields are invalid when you've just started filling that form out. You only want that to happen when you hit the submit button. So there are things like that we do with JavaScript to improve accessibility. And then within the product itself, one of the things that we've done with the last release is we've changed some of the defaults. So for example, we make sure on checkboxes that the overall label for checkboxes appears by default and isn't hidden. I've been getting a lot of advice from Jen Hayes, who's been giving me a lot of advice on how to improve accessibility within the form plugin. It's really an ongoing process because there's new things that come up all the time about ways that forms can be improved. So that's really an ongoing commitment for us. It's not something that we've done and stopped. It's something that we're going to continue to do and improve on.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important, obviously, that I do a lot with accessibility. I'm not an expert at it by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm constantly learning more. I think Anamika probably has a better handle on accessibility in this chat. But
yeah, and I wouldn't consider myself an expert either, because I'm always learning. There's always something new to learn about, and I think it's good to keep revisiting that and improving on it. Another thing that we have that other form plugins don't have is we are fully responsive. And what I mean by that is that you can determine what columns and what sizes fields and sections are for each breakpoint. So for example, on mobile, you can change the layout of the form specifically for mobile so that it's easy to read. And that's another accessibility thing, right? Depending on what device you're using, making sure that form is easy to use. So we actually have a breakpoint selector at the bottom of our layout editor, and you can choose different breakpoints and then choose the design for each of those specific breakpoints. So rather than, some form plugins will do like a single collapse at a certain breakpoint, so they'll just make everything one column at a certain breakpoint. But with WS Form, you can change that across a variety of different breakpoints.
I think a lot of developers take into account accessibility on the front end for site visitors, but I think you've also taken that into account for people who are building sites, which is just as important. So thank you for the work you've been doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For block editor users out there, the breakpoints are these. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Jeez. Jeez, oh man. Hey, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I was building a site for a customer recently and trying to do different responsive stuff in the block editor was a challenge, to say the least. We had to build like accessory classes to get that working. So, but yeah,
it's
I know
tough.
where you're coming from, Kevin.
Do you Mark, a quick question for you technically on that topic, because I know of at least 2 or 3 form builder plugins now, or just even like block-based themes and, you know, like that have forms somehow integrated. And they took the route of using the block editor as the form canvas, like actually just building, you know, basically, I guess, custom blocks and stuff like that, like right in there. I can see some advantages to that, but like, you know, obviously when you started out, like you have your own kind of like dedicated area for the forms, and it's totally separate from that. It doesn't rely on any of that. Has that, do you think that has been like a huge advantage? And like, do you think there's even ways to optimize that further, or what do you kind of, if you were starting over, like, do you think you would change your mind, or just anything around the actual UI experience?
I considered doing something with the block editor, having separate fields, but it just didn't make sense. Having WS Form being kind of page builder agnostic has been great. It's not tied to a particular builder out there. We have, you know, what are known as elements /widget /whatever for a lot of different builders out there. So you can use it with Elementor, Divi, Bricks, you know, Breakdance, Oxygen, all the big ones out there. It'll work with. And people really like the layout editor that we have for that reason. I mean, if you were to try and build a form and make it responsive in the block editor right now, you're going to have a lot of problems. So by us controlling that and controlling that layout and that responsiveness has been definitely an advantage.
Makes sense. I have one question, because we're simulcasting on YouTube. I've got a question over here. Somebody said that they love WS Form, and they have a question, or maybe it doesn't exist, or if it's coming. Is there currently conditional logic on a date picker? Like, for instance, they want to set conditional logic on a date between like 2005 and 2010. I'm not 100% sure on the exact use case. Obviously, it's just a comment.
Yeah. So yeah, on date fields, you can set a min and max date on that, and that min and max date can actually be dynamic as well. So let's say you had 2 date fields on the form which were from and to, and then you had another date field. You could actually use that from and to date to specify the min and max date on that other field, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we have a big variable system in WS Form which enables you to make a lot of stuff dynamic on the page. So simple stuff like if you had like a first name and a last name field, and then you had like a full name field, you could use the content of the first and last name field to build that first name dynamically. So the same with the min and max field on a form. You can actually put variables within those min and max settings and make that dynamic. You can also set the min and max on a date field using conditional logic as well. So if, for example, you had 2 radio buttons that said Q1, Q2, you can actually use those radio buttons to set the min and max date on a date field to be, you know, Jan 1st to March, whatever, and then April to June. So yeah, that's, you know, again, where that conditional logic power comes in. You can use that to dynamically change attributes on fields as well.
Yeah, there's been very few things that I've tried to do with WS Form that I could not do.
Yeah. If you're wondering, like, can WS Form do that? Usually the answer is yes. And then if for some reason, like, because I've reached out to Mark before and I've said, hey, can it do this? And he doesn't say no. He just responds with a zip file. That's just it. I just get a zip file back, and it's like it does. So that's the kind of level we're dealing with here.
Yeah, if it's within an afternoon with a coffee, I can get it done for you, Kevin.
Talk about, you know, I think one of the hidden aspects of it. Talk about like WooCommerce stuff with WS Form.
Yeah, so we have a WooCommerce extension that lets you put any of the WS Form forms on a product. So you can use it to customize a product. Basically what it's doing is it will take the fields in your form and add those as metadata to the cart. So you could, for example, ask, you know, what type of color do they want, or what wording do they want to be etched onto this product? And that can then be added to the cart as metadata. So all of the functionality of WS Form can be put onto a WooCommerce product. So you can even do tabs, file uploads, signature fields, all that kind of stuff can also be added to an actual product within a WooCommerce cart. So it enables you also to change the product price as well. So if you've got price fields, any of our e-commerce fields on the form, you can use that to adjust the product price as well. So you can build product configurators and have the price change according to what people choose. So it opens up a whole new realm and a completely different WP Town Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get, I know we got Marcus in the speaker pool, and we got Connery in the speaker pool. Just real quick, have you seen any standout implementations of WS Forms, stuff that you just like looked at and you're like, wow, like unique stuff?
Yeah, we've got airlines using it. We've got, as I mentioned earlier on, we've got people doing window configurators. I've got people booking golf tournaments with it. I mean, the list goes on. I think we've handled around 15,000 support tickets, something like that now.
Wow.
And so we see all sorts of different stuff, and a lot of stuff that I want to reference, actually build case studies about. I think that's one of the things. One of the things that we're weak in is our own website. It's always the same, right? And I'd love to actually show some use case scenarios of WS Form and how it can handle the basic stuff, but also the really complicated stuff as well.
Yeah,
Mark, who's first in line here?
I think we got Connery. So,
Hey guys, how's it going?
what's up?
Good.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Mark. I'm kind of a new guy on the block when it comes to WordPress. I have several clients using his forms. His customer service is amazing. Yeah, I have multiple plugins, and he's easily one of the first to respond when I'm trying to troubleshoot with a client. And just like he's saying, everyone's saying, I have two specific forms that I can think of off the top of my head, where sending an email out, I have a webhook, going to a different WordPress site, migrating the data into Fluent CRM, and then it's also that same form going to Active Campaign. So the things that you can do with one form, amazing. Just wanted to give that shout out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, great testimonial for the website right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Guys are gonna have to connect. Sweet.
We will.
Appreciate it, Connery. Thank you, brother. Marcus.
Hey everyone. Hey Mark, Kevin,
Hey,
Mark.
Marcus.
How you guys doing?
Great.
Coming in with a question, actually. I've been tinkering with, I love WS Form, use it on all the stuff that I have going on. I've been tinkering with it and trying to expand on a little bit of what it can do with the OpenAI API. And what I have run into now, and maybe you have a workaround currently, is what the OpenAI API gives me back is some kind of content, right? It's either text or JSON, sure. And then I can dump that into a field. What I've been trying to do is say I have a field that I want someone to write something in. I want OpenAI to check if it has any profanity in it, and then just give me back like a yes or no. And if it's a yes, then disable a button. If it's a no, then let the button be enabled to submit the form. Is that something that's currently possible that I'm missing somewhere? Like, do I just I'm asking OpenAI to just give me back like a simple yes or no. It's not always going to do that. So I know that that's where it gets a little squirrely. What you get back from OpenAI isn't necessarily exactly what you're asking for, but is there some way of doing something like that currently, or some thoughts as to how to leverage OpenAI API responses to do some other things with the form, like disabling fields or something like that?
Yeah, so that's currently using the OpenAI moderation endpoint, I believe. And what we do is, I'm trying to think how it works now, it's been a while. I think it gives a score back to us. And if the score's over a certain threshold, then we mark that submission as spam. So there's no return back to the form currently, but we could certainly look at doing that. Just like Kevin says, I'll send you a zip file later on.
I'm not trying to create more work for you.
It's already there.
It's already sitting in my inbox, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, let's have a chat about that, Mark. I know we can chat on Slack, and I'll see if we can get something sorted out for that. At the moment, I think we just use it as another spam prevention method. So I don't see why we couldn't just return, a variable or something that you could use on the form, because we've already got variables that come back for like number of tokens used and things like that you can use on the form.
Okay.
So yeah, it should be possible. It'd just be a case of getting it coded to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to show you at some point what I have going on. It's
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more complicated than just the yes or no whether it's profanity, but some way to do some kind of actions on the form fields. I kind of have a little bit of a JavaScript hack workaround going, but I was wondering if there was something cleaner I could do. So I'd love to show you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the OpenAI, I think OpenAI add-on that we have is still free. So that's been really popular, and we've kept that up to date with the latest models as well. You can do stuff like image creation. You can I think it even does text to speech, speech to text now. So you can upload the audio files and it will transcribe them, and all kinds of fun stuff. And we've seen some really cool implementations with that. So, but yeah, let's have a chat about that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Sure.
Mark, how has this whole AI situation affected WS Form, if at all? Obviously, you're integrating now with like OpenAI and things like that. Do you have plans to integrate with like other ones, like I don't know, Anthropic, Claude models and things, or just in general, like has it affected your workflow? Has it affected your thought on where the product needs to go at all? I mean, there's already a lot baked into it, like automating forms and things like that. But what's your thoughts?
Well, luckily, OpenAI can't build a form plugin yet, so I'm safe for the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
It's coming, right? No, it's. I mean, for my workflow, I use it actually on the styler for developing methods for converting like RGBA to HSLA and stuff like that. But then went through the code very carefully to make sure it was correct. I do not trust code that comes out of OpenAI, and it scares me that people do. So yeah, I find it useful for that. I find it useful for like press releases, blogs, correcting English that I write, things like that. But in terms of what we've done with it in the product, we've got things like the ability to prompt what type of form that you want, and it'll build the form for you. So you can say, hey, I want a dog adoption form, and it'll build the form for you. It fills out all the select drop downs. It'll even put help text in there for accessibility and stuff like that. And then we've basically tried to take advantage of all the other OpenAI endpoints that are there. So you've got stuff like the chat endpoint, there's image generation, there's the audio transcribing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'd like to expand that to other AI platforms as well. We've only done OpenAI so far because obviously that's the biggest one out there that most people use. But I'd love to have a look at some of the other APIs out there and see if we can get those integrated. But yeah, we've got to keep on top of this AI stuff, right? All of us. So definitely been embracing that as early as we can. I think we've had the OpenAI add-on for well over a year now. So I remember showing Kevin that, and he immediately recorded a video about it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Ever evolving for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same on the CSS side of things. So tell us a little bit about, because you just did a major refactoring, and it took, how long did it take?
4 months, I think.
4 months.
Yeah.
How many lines?
A lot of late nights.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands. Yeah. We had to. So the old CSS was basically a big splat out of CSS that was generated dynamically with PHP, and really wanted to upgrade that to use CSS variables. And so, in true WS Form style, we went over the top, built a whole new styler for it. Makes it a lot easier to style now. So before, I think we only had probably about 20 different things you could change, like font family and a few basic colors and stuff like that. We were kind of tied down a bit by what the customize tool could do in WordPress. So now we've got our own styler. Like I said, all CSS variable based. There's like 400 different variables, everything from basic colors all the way down to the padding on the day on a date field. So you can really get quite niche with it and quite granular with it. And we've got some really great feedback about it. It's been we launched it last week, and we've had some really great feedback. People are able to do a lot more with it now than they were able to do before. Nice thing about it is that most of the styling is done with maybe 20 different settings, and that then rolls through to other settings.
Yeah.
So, for example, like the color of a placeholder on fields comes from the what I think we call it neutral color in the main color palette. So we basically any of the settings can be a CSS variable as well, and that enables us to kind of daisy chain those styles all the way through the form itself. So yeah, excited about that. We're going to be doing some more shouting about that. We're going to do a few videos with people to show how that works. So keep your eyes peeled.
I think that's going to be a huge selling point, because there's really two sides. There's like, can I do all the technical stuff that I want to do for this form, and then can I style it? And before, for sure, like it was a challenge. Styling it was a challenge.
Yeah, it was.
And now that's not a challenge anymore. So that's going to be huge for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's all backward compatible as well. So anybody that has styled stuff, it should still work. They might have to, get their specificity correct, but it's all working.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Got anything else, Mark?
Mark Smansky? It's tough. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if anybody else in the listener pool wants to elevate up to speaker, just let us know here. But
we'll do a final call.
Yeah, we'll do a little final call for sure. I mean, like I said, I kind of harken back to kind of the goal thing, because I mean, I think of myself as a form plugin creator. Like if I was a form plugin creator like you, Mark, like where do we go from here? You know what I mean? Like how do we continue to innovate? How do we continue to do push the envelope, so to speak, in the realm of forms? Because it's fantastic already, but there's always more to be done. So kind of obviously the styler thing, the styler integration, everything like that, development there has been huge. Do we, I mean, I don't want you to spoil anything that might be coming, but do you have any ideas of things that could be, might be coming down the pipeline here, or just things that you're thinking about?
Yeah, the next big thing I think that we're going to be pushing is some better integration with translation stuff. So that's always been a challenge for us, and the reason being that, take for example a select field, right? So we have a data grid with multiple columns that you can choose, because we have the ability with our data grids where you could choose a select value and then pull out 5 different columns of data into other fields. So it gets quite complex. It's almost like an Excel within a field. Yeah. And translating that has always been a challenge. The normal stuff like field labels and things like that are fairly straightforward. So we've been working with WPML, for example, to work out how we can get those data grids translated. So that's coming down the line. That's probably going to be the next big thing that we push. And then, it's up to you users out there. Tell us what we need to be doing. Tell us what we're not doing. Tell us how we can improve things, and we'll listen and get it done. I think that's one of the things that has made us quite popular with people, is the fact that we do listen, and we listen to our customers, and we evolve the product according to what their needs are. If we don't hear it from people, then it won't get implemented. So yeah, shout about it.
Yeah, 100%. If you are a WS Form customer and you're somehow not in the Facebook group already, you should be. If you're not posting on the feature requests, if you have something, I always throw it in there. I think that's a fantastic resource as well. Yeah, Kevin, anything else from you, bro?
No, that's it. I mean, I would encourage everybody to, I know I've been a user of many different form systems. Again, I sing the praises of WS Form, and I do encourage people, hey, if you're just wondering, hey, well, what's the experience like? Like Mark said, there's a free version. You can go get it, just play around with it, see what it does. I would highly encourage people to go to wsform.com, just grab an agency license, and I think it's one of those stack staples, as I call it. It's and the other thing I would also tell people is I wouldn't play the game of oh, well, this is a small project. I'm just going to use a free form plugin on this thing, or I'm going to use, for Bricks users, for example, I'm just going to use Bricks' native form for this project over here, and I don't really need all the power of WS Form. It's keeping your stack very consistent is extremely important for scaling. If you're a freelancer, if you're in the agency world, scaling is all about consistency, and workflow consistency is a big part of that. And so if you're like, oh, I'm gonna use this tool on this site and this other tool on this other site, no, keep your stack super consistent. WS Form is a stack staple. It gets included and installed on every single project that I do, big or small. Then the workflow is always exactly the same. The setup is always exactly the same. So the smart people will go grab an agency license, and then they'll just install WS Form on every single project that they do, and they'll call it a day. That's what I recommend. So if you want to give it a shot, that's what I would say to do.
Appreciate it, Kevin.
All right, so we'll put this one in the books. Thanks for coming on, Mark, and thanks for co-hosting to the other Mark, and thanks for all the speakers that participated today. We'll be back very soon. We're on a bi-weekly schedule now. Is that right, Zmansky?
Yeah.
Yep. So every 2 weeks we'll be here. So we're going to try to keep it consistent, same time. Obviously, same place, X Spaces. If you want to participate in these, we'll be simulcasting onto YouTube, and then all of the details for all of the shows are at wptownhall.show.
And if you want one last note here, we want to expand this even. Obviously, it's Town Hall. We want to hear all your voices. But as you noticed, the last couple episodes, we've been having guests. We have a lot of guests in mind. If you guys want to hear from people, and we can bring them onto the show, and you can ask them questions directly, let us know. Tweet at us or DM us or whatever. If you want to see people on WP Town Hall, guests that you either use their products or just other WordPress or even like adjacent figureheads and such, let us know. We would love the requests there.
Great idea.
Excellent. All right. See you guys.
See you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
Alrighty, guys. Well, if you're still here on the stream, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I had no idea what was going on with those technical difficulties at first. In my ears, just looking at some of the comments here, if you guys still have the audio being a little robotized, yeah, it was weird in my ears. I don't know. Hopefully, you guys had. I was trying to do some checking throughout there. Hopefully, everything is all good. But yeah, let me know. And if you're still here as well on YouTube and all that, like I said at the very end, just hit me up, post in my live stream, post in Kevin's live stream. If you want to see people on WP Town Hall, we are literally trying to get all sorts of people from all walks of life onto there. We've already had Mark Westguard today, Adam Prizer last time. We have a lot of people lined up. Want to continue to provide as much value as possible and get you literally in front of those people if you want to ask questions and things. So hopefully you're enjoying that content. Hopefully you're enjoying all the other stuff that we're doing. Thank you guys so much, as always, for all your support. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube.